And he's like, you know what I feel like? And when my husband asked that kind of question, I mean, that could be a million things. He could feel like a cat. He could feel like a tree. But
I'm not a cat.
I'm not a cat.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Well, Shit. It really is that simple. I'm Claire.
And I'm Serena. On this podcast, we help you to understand about your 12 universal needs, why they are currently not being well met,
How to meet them in ways that work for you, and how to consistently do so in quick, easy, and simple ways that fit seamlessly into your life.
We'll also help you to understand how doing so will have a positive ripple effect in literally every area of your life.
If you like what you hear, come and join the conversation in our Facebook group.
And enjoy the show.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey there, everyone.
So this morning, I found out that Serena has been keeping a secret from her husband. Shh. But don't tell him.
He already knows.
He does already know. So this morning when we got together, Serena was telling me a few things that have been happening over the last few days. And she told me about something that happened last night and a conversation that took place between her and her husband, which I just thought it was one of those moments I was like, oh, I wish we just recorded that as a podcast, because I think it's really helpful and it would explain some things to people in ways that we probably haven't quite described yet. The second thing I think would be good about it, that is so good about it, is that you're used to hearing quite a lot of my voice because of the Universal Needs content. This time you're going to get to hear way more from Miss Serena, which in some respects is actually really helpful because I've been doing the Universal Needs work for so long now. And because Serena has done it more recently, like, she can share a perspective that I can't, because I almost can't remember a time when I wasn't doing it because it's been such a part of my life for so long. And so there are things that she can share that are more valuable than I can in certain situations. So I'm really looking forward to her sharing this with you, with us, with me again right now. And I'm just like, do you want to just dive on in and share like what happened? Tell us the story. Let us know kind of how it got started, what happened, and how did it all unfold?
Well, last night I was doing as I always do. At the end of my day, I go through my needs practice, just kind of put a bow on the day, make sure that I am filled before I go to bed, give myself the gratitude for doing everything. And often I do that in a private space, but I had been sitting on the couch and I had my little needs book with me. Mm-hmm. And my husband was like, "What you doing?" So I told him, "I'm doing my needs practice." Mm-hmm. "Yes, can I see it?" I'm like, "No." Plain and simple. No.
This great example of how no is a complete sentence.
Yes.
Like, we don't have to justify ourselves. I think you ended up explaining a little bit more than that to him, but
I did. I mean, it's personal. I was like, this is mine.
Just for me.
It's mine.
Right.
And the only child in me comes out. Which is funny because it comes back a little bit later with that kind of dynamic, let's say.
Yeah.
So he was very interested. He was leaning in and he's like, "So can you tell me what you're doing?" I was
and he was a little bit affronted that you wouldn't show him initially, wasn't he? Like,
absolutely. It was like he was.
I just did the face.
Yeah. A little bit like, I mean, honestly, what the fuck?
Right.
Like,
right? Yeah.
He really was.
Why not? I'm your husband. Like, why have you got this thing that you're keeping private from me?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So he started to kind of lean in and he was like, well, what exactly are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm focusing on my seven of my needs. So I write.
It's in the trunk of the Universal Needs tree.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I put 1 through 7, so I know what number I'm on, and then I find the way of meeting that need for the day that works for me, that's going to fulfill me in that moment for that day.
Right.
He's like, okay. And he reaches over and he gets a pen and he gets some paper and he's like, "What are my needs?" Like, no. And again, I get the, are you kidding me? You're not going to...
No, as in, like, I'm not going to tell you what your universal needs are, right?
Yes. And again, he was shocked. Why wouldn't I share that with him? And he's like, you're not going to tell me? Well, how would I find out what my needs are? And I'm like, well, they're universal. Everybody has the same 12 needs, and how we meet them is different, and going through the practice is what meets that need for you.
And the only way you can really understand that, to get the context of the other things that you need in order to do it in a way that's really actually going to work, you need to go through the program. I think that's what you told him, right?
Yeah, in some form of trying to convey, I'm not trying to be mean or keep something from you. As somebody who does the practice myself and also teaches it, I know that you need to have the bigger picture.
Right. You need the context. You need the layers. And actually, as someone who thought that it was interesting because you were where he was at one point.
Oh, definitely.
And wanting to know what the needs were. And I'm like, I can't share them with you as they stand. I have to give you the context, because without the context, it not only may it not end up working for you, it could actually end up working against you.
My husband didn't exactly take to that type of response, because that's pretty much what I told him.
Well, he didn't understand it, did he?
He didn't, because we've talked about the red-green spectrum in a couple of episodes, and the ways that we meet our needs impacts us on many levels. It was like, I could tell you what your needs are, but as humans, we're meeting our needs every second of every day, because that's what we do. And we do that automatically.
Right.
So if I tell you what your needs are, your mind...
But here's the thing. Sorry, I got to jump in just very quickly. Yes, we are meeting our needs all day of every day, but how we are socially conditioned and how we learn to meet our needs are at the red end of the spectrum. So most people are meeting most of their needs at the red end of the spectrum, right? And that's a really important part to what's coming next.
Yes, because I explained that to him, where we're conditioned as humans. If I tell you what your needs are, if I'm like, all right, 1 through 7, here are what they are, you're gonna think what those needs are and how to meet those. But as Claire said, we're conditioned as a culture, as a society, as humans, to meet our needs in red spectrum ways, which are usually the quickest and easiest ways, but the least fulfilling ways to do it.
And sometimes actually draining.
Yes.
I'm going to challenge you what you just said then. They're not the quickest and easiest ways. They're the ways that the ways that we're comfortable with, the ways we're familiar with, the ways that we see other people doing it. But actually, sometimes the green ways are a lot quicker and simpler. But the key thing is that no matter how quick or simple the red ones are, they're not going to be very fulfilling, and sometimes they do actually drain us, because it requires energy to do those things, and if they're not very fulfilling, that can sometimes end up in like a negative situation, right?
It can. And then you can also be thinking you're meeting your needs and actually underrooting another need, because you're meeting it in a red spectrum way. And he got a little perturbed.
Good use of the word perturbed.
Yeah, I mean, like, not angry, but he was like, really, you have this thing that you do every day, that you live and breathe and constantly talk about.
And it makes a huge difference to your life, makes you more happy, more fulfilled, all the things.
Yeah, and you're not going to tell me? And I'm like...
Oh, right. I feel for him. Like, listening to this story, I'm like, I get how so many people are like, why won't you tell us what the needs are? And you're right. We have to be responsible in how we communicate them, because if we give the information without the relevant context, we don't want people to feel more drained. And still, I can only imagine how he must have felt in that moment.
Well, I'll tell you how he felt in that moment, because he beautifully expressed it to me. And he's like, you know what I feel like? And when my husband asked that kind of question, I mean, that could be a million things. He could feel like a cat. He could feel like a tree. But
I'm not a cat.
I'm not a cat. So, and we digress.
In joke from one of Joe's favorite viral YouTube clips. So yes. that's what that's referencing.
If you don't know and you need a good laugh for the day, just Google "I'm not a cat."
Right.
And you'll understand. So he said, I feel like a kid. And I'm that kid that sees another kid that's like, oh, I have this thing. It's so cool. I play with it and it's awesome.
It's like a new toy or something, right?
Yeah. And he was I mean, I think everybody can kind of relate to that child without that toy and wanting it. And he's like, and you're here with that toy being like, oh yeah, it's so cool, it's awesome. And he's like, well, can I see it? I'm like, you're like, no, you can't see it. Well, can I play with it? No, you can get your own. Well, why? You have one. Well, I'll tell you where to. And he's like, you're like, well, I'll tell you where to buy it. I'm like, well, yeah, kind of.
Not even buy it. Like, I can tell you where to get it right now. Like, but there's some steps. Like, there's things that we have videos on the website. There are things that you can start to do to start learning about this. But here's how you can do it for yourself, kind of thing. Here's how you can go get your version of this.
Yes. And he said, well, it doesn't. It's like then you bring the toy to the house, or like in that case he was saying in school, like then you brought the toy to school and you had it here and you're like, yeah, I got my toy. And
just for, if you can't see because you're listening to the audio, Serena has her hands like around something so that if like whatever's in her hands, someone wouldn't be able to see it.
Yeah, like coveted, like I'm purposely keeping it away. And he's like, and I feel like I'm like, well, is it cool? Yeah, it's cool. Is it life-changing? Yeah, it's life-changing. Does it have spots? Yeah, it has spots. And obviously he wasn't talking about the needs of that program. It was some mythical toy that has been imagined. And it was that I was coveting it and I was holding it and I wasn't sharing it. And I was like, you know what? That's actually that's valid. I totally get what you're saying because I was there.
I understand why you feel that way.
Yeah. I was in friendship with Claire for a long time before I was in partnership. And even when I was in partnership with her before I went through the program, I really didn't get the insight because it wasn't what was going to be good for me.
It wasn't going to serve you for me to give you part of the information without the part of the information that meant that was going to be helpful and not harmful.
Yes. So his point was valid. And I was trying to think of a scenario that he would be able to kind of identify with and relate with. And we watch a cartoon show which has different levels of absurdity. And I automatically thought, all right, he's going to get this reference. So it is, just to kind of frame it, there is a grandfather who is a scientist, and his grandson has pretty much challenged him to make a redo type of
machine device,
yeah, like a game, a start over, like a do over. So video game style, you can just save your place, start from that point, and you're good. So the grandfather makes this for him, and he is like, all right, do you want to know about it, or do you want to go have some fun? And of course the grandson's like, I'm gonna go have some fun. So he goes out and he has all of these adventures and all of these redos, and he knocks over a soda, boom, redo. He talks to a girl and messes it up, boom, redo, and does redo after redo. And at the end of the show, the grandson comes back and he's like, I liked being able to do that, but no, I just want to live life as it comes. And at least there were no consequences. And the grandfather looked at him, he's like, there's always consequences. And he's like, I asked you, did you want to have fun with it, or did you want to know about it? And you chose to just take it and have fun with it. And come to find out that every time there was a redo, this child, cartoon character, this person was actually going through a horrible demise to finish out that game. And he didn't realize it in that moment that was happening. But when it was shown back to him, he got to see every time he redid something, he was actually impacting himself. I mean,
and he died a horrible death.
Yeah, he literally did die a horrible death. And my husband looked at me and he goes, this seems a little, we're talking life or death. And I'm like, well, no, we're not talking life or death. But he wanted to have all of the benefit of it, but not know anything that actually it was based on.
And also helped him to use it in a way that was going to be helpful, not put him in a difficult position. I mean, obviously not quite life and death, but to be in a situation which actually wasn't good for him.
Mm-hmm. Like this, having known, he could have been like, you know what, I don't need to redo the spilled cup of milk here because that's not going to be worth it.
Right.
But maybe you do something detrimental and that would serve them. And it's the same thing. If I had told him what his needs were right up front, he would have taken that and done whatever he felt without knowing how he could be actually hurting him.
Draining himself.
And like, hurting his progress in meeting his needs and his process.
Right.
And he couldn't really argue me on that at the end. And he's like, yeah, I guess so. But you're talking about he died a horrible death. And I'm like, I get it. It's an extreme circumstance. But if I'm going to relate something and have you hopefully kind of grasp it, the cartoon we watch is as close as I can get to making sure, you kind of know where I'm coming from.
Right.
But in that moment, I realized, I'm like, wow, it really is like that situation in a much lesser and smaller scale. But he wanted what I had. And he wanted it, but he didn't want the foundation of it to know.
You wanted the quick shortcut to get the outcome that you're getting,
yes,
without understanding all of the layers that actually lead to getting the outcome you're getting.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for yeah, he wanted the results because he sees me resourced. He sees me fulfilled. He sees me filling my own cup constantly. And like he said, I live it. I breathe it. I bring it home. It's in everything I do. And he still sees it as this coveted little thing, and I'm like,
something you're keeping from him.
Yes, and I'm like, we share everything. But I was like, go to our website. You can see. You want me to draw you a tree? I will draw you a tree, and I will section it out, and I will give you every bit of information except for what I feel will not serve you.
Well, and that's the thing is, I remember you telling me this morning that when you were having this conversation, you're like, you're my husband. I will tell you what, if I didn't think it was going to work against you, I would tell you anything and everything because I want you to get the benefit from this the same way as I have and I do. But if I do it this way, you're not going to get that benefit. And I don't want that for you and I don't want that for us. So it's that kind of, and sometimes it can be really difficult to understand that.
It can be. And it's when you see something affecting somebody so much in a positive way, you want that. Like, what are they doing?
Right.
And we have that here. And that's just that's so
it's
cool.
frustrating for us as well.
It is frustrating. Like to not be able to share this with the people that we are closest with because we don't want to put them in a compromised situation.
And even beyond that, like I would love to just be able to, if I could today put out a video going, here are the first 7 needs or here are the 12 needs, and I knew it was going to benefit people, I do it in a heartbeat. Like I want to help people with this. We want to help people with this. This is something that we've seen the difference it's made for us and the powerful impact that we've experienced. And we want that for other people. And it's that whole thing of we want to share it, but if we share it without this bit, actually, it's not that helpful and it may actually work against people. And this was just a really great story to kind of illustrate that fact in a way, because that's what came up. I mean, it was a perfectly valid question. It was a perfectly valid feeling that he had. And the way that you described it to him, I think was really helpful.
Yeah, I really had to kind of think outside of the box and okay, because as Claire said, he's my husband. I'm an open book to begin with. And he's like, but you say it's so quick, it's so simple, it's so easy. Why can't you just share it?
And it is.
And the thing is.
It is quick, simple, and easy when you have the understanding. And it's like the understanding is there's layers in there and there's some unlearning in there about how we have been kind of conditioned in the ways we've been doing it for such a long time.
There is a lot of unlearning. I think that was probably, and I think I mentioned it before, that's one of those things, unlearning the conditioning that you've had is a big part of the process.
In some respects, it's the biggest. Learning about the needs and how to meet them, that's the easy bit. It's the unlearning that kind of takes the time. And it's interesting because the story that you told it's a kind of a weird analogy, but it really reminds me of actually when I experienced Hurricane Irma, and we knew that there was a tree that had come down on the property that we were staying at, and there were no chainsaws in the state of Florida because of the amount of felled trees there were due to the hurricane. So I remember we had to get a chainsaw up in Georgia and bring it back down with us. Now, a chainsaw is a phenomenal tool. Like, it's really powerful. It can be used to save someone's life. It could be used to kind of help get somebody out from underneath something that's kind of jeopardizing their life. It can be used to build things. It can be used, it can be used to so many ways when you understand and know how to use it properly and effectively and safely. If you don't know how to use it properly and effectively and safely, it is so dangerous. And it's interesting because I remember, like, we actually had to learn how to use a chainsaw via YouTube because it was the only way we learned. And thank goodness we live in an age where there was so much great quality information about the safety, about the things that you needed to be aware of, about the kickback and the various things. And I'm going to be honest, the person I was with at the time was a little bit like Joe was, in that he was like, he was a guy with a power tool and he wanted to just get in there and use it. And
I don't need directions.
Yeah, well, exactly. And it was very much like, and I remember there was one video that he watched and he was like, oh my, because I said to him, I was like, we've never used that kind of power tool before. This is not something we know. I only feel safe with you doing this if you actually go and learn what you need to learn in order to be able to do it safely. Because if you do some harm to yourself, I'm the one that's going to end up having to deal with it. And that's not okay with me. And so he sort of begrudgingly was like, oh, okay, I'll go and learn some stuff. And there was one video I remember him watching going, oh my goodness, I would never have thought of that. And if he had just gone in and started using it, the damage he would have done to himself, potentially to the house, to me, huge. And this is the thing, is that chainsaws they can be used to sculpt ice into these beautiful things. It's such a powerful tool, but you need to understand how to use it in a way that's going to be constructive and build and do the things you want it to do, and not in a way that's going to unintentionally and inadvertently do harm to yourself or anybody else. Because as we know, when we do that, we negatively impact our needs too.
Yeah, so I think, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful for his honesty in sharing with you that he was, so many people you can imagine in that situation going, well, fine, you don't want to share with me. Okay. And sort of turning their back on you and being a little bit pouty for a while. Mm-hmm. But I really appreciate the fact that he was honest with you about what he was feeling and why and he articulated it in a way that you could be like, oh, okay, I get how that is. And that you took the time to find a way of explaining it to him in a way that he could relate to be able to go, okay. And here's the thing. He didn't like the answer. He still didn't like the answer because he still wants the results. He still wants the quick, and everybody wants a quick fix. Everybody wants a shortcut if there is one. And the irony is that the universal needs program is the shortcut, because I'm the one who did years and years and years of trying to go around the houses figuring this stuff out. Now that is the shortcut in terms of the grand scheme of things, in terms of what it would take you to figure it out without that kind of guidance. So everybody wants that, but obviously we want the pill, the overnight, the whatever it is, the tell me in 2 seconds, give me the elevator pitch version of it. And so he didn't like the response, but I think he understood what it was that you were saying as much as he didn't like it. And again, you can understand him not liking it, because I don't think you enjoyed the fact that you were my business partner and you didn't know the content until you went through the content. And so having that understanding and awareness. And so if you're kind of listening at home, okay, these two talk about needs all the time. They talk about the fact that I need to meet my needs. They even say in one of the episodes, I need to know what my needs are, but they're not going to tell me what the fuck, I'm doing it today. Like that's where we're at. I can understand someone going, how is this helpful to me listening to this podcast? But it's things like this, and it's the understanding the context and how the needs relate to different things and how they affect different things, and the things that we can share with you. We want to share with you as much as we can without the things that are going to cause problems, in order that you can get some benefit from this in the meantime, which is why we're doing the podcast and why we're sharing the things that we are. So I just want to say thank you for thank you to him, thank you to you, thank you for sharing. I hope that you found this helpful. And if there's anything that's kind of come up for you as a result of hearing this story, you're like, oh yeah, I was feeling something like this, but what about this? And how about that? And why not this? Send us your questions. Let us know what it is that you want to know. You can get in touch via our social media. You can send us a message via theuniversalneeds.com, and we will do more of these in order to help answer those questions so you can understand better, and also so you can learn as much as you can through this medium about meeting your own needs. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll be back with you again next week. In the meantime, stay safe, lots of love, and remember to keep meeting your own needs. Bye.
Thanks for the content, babe.
That's it for today,
If you like what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and give us a written review.
as it will help more people find us.
And remember, to benefit from a powerful tool, you gotta know how to use it.
Well, shit. It really is that simple.